All right, welcome to day 68 of Sefer Hamitzvot. So it's the last day that we're going to do the mitzvah of Mitzvah 59, which we did the last few days, which is the mitzvah to blow trumpets during the karbanos, the sacrifices on special days, as well as when the Jews would gather for sad times like fasting and teshuvah, etc. And now we're going to begin the halachos, what Rambam calls of Megillah and Chanukah. In other words, Purim and Chanukah. But the main mitzvah of Purim is Megillah. Very important, interesting nuance. The Rambam does not count these mitzvahs as part of the 613. They are mitzvahs that we keep. They were instituted by what we call sofrim, which were like the original sages. Prophetic, it was prophet through prophets. Anshe Knesset HaGedolah are the ones that ratified it, that agreed to it. They did a lot of what we know today, like the Order of the Siddur, for example. So many things Anshe Knesset HaGedolah set up. Not all of them were prophets, but many of them were. So they have prophet status. So that's how it's set up. Now, some hold that Chanukah and Purim are part of the 613, and the reason they give it is because we make a bracha, right? When we light the menorah, when we read the Megillah. Good question, and Jan, I'm answering that now. I don't think Sefer Chinuch, but another one where, so we say a bracha. That means that, you know, it's a mitzvah. That's when we say a bracha. So Rambam has a very interesting explanation. I believe for the most part we hold them as mitzvahs d'Rabbanan for sure, as not biblical, but as rabbinic. But Rambam says there is a biblical mitzvah that we are adhering to, and that's why we make a bracha. What is the mitzvah? There's a mitzvah in the Torah that you shouldn't veer off the path of whatever the sages say. In other words, everything they tell you to do, you must do. This is the Torah way. That is a biblical commandment. I believe we're going to learn it much later on. So by you fulfilling the mitzvah, in this case of Megillah and of Chanukah, this is the mitzvah that you're actually fulfilling. And so it's appropriate for us to make a bracha. Anyway, I find it very interesting. So what Rambam includes here is the halachos, the laws of Megillah and Chanukah. We're going to go over some of them. And yeah, okay. So Megillah, everyone's obligated to read the Megillah. That's men, that's women, and it includes converts, freed slaves, everybody. Children should also be trained to read it. This is referred to as chinuch. Are the children obligated in this? No, the parents are obligated, meaning the children can't be held accountable, but it's the parents' job to teach your children. We go to Megillah on Purim, and that's their obligation. So that should happen as well. And then it says, even the priests should neglect their service in the temple and come hear the reading of Megillah. Torah studies should be paused. Megillah comes first. You do Megillah, it's the mitzvah. There's one thing that takes priority over the reading of Megillah, and this is what we call a mace mitzvah, which is the burial of the dead. So if God forbid, somebody has to be buried or the body has to be taken care of, if this comes, you take care of that first, and then you go hear Megillah. Otherwise, top priority of the day, you hear Megillah, and then resume all your other activities. We know that the mitzvah is to read, but we don't all read it. You could fulfill your obligation by reading it or by listening to somebody else reading it, as long as that person is obligated, of course. So a boy over the age of bar mitzvah, etc. It is a mitzvah to read the entire Megillah. You can't just read like chapters 1 and 9. And we know we read it both twice, day and night. At night, it could be the entire night. Day, it could be the entire day, as long as it's done at one point. And as we know, like every mitzvah, it's a beautiful idea to do it quickly and to do it right away. So at night, usually people have an easier time with that because they want to break their fast. But during the day, you know, obviously you could schedule, I'm going to go at 5 o'clock to hear the Megillah, but there's something beautiful, if possible, to do as early as possible. To read it or hear it be read, either, Mitch. I'm not sure the question.
I was like with Purim, it's supposed to be like, the mitzvah to hear it, as opposed,
Right, so no, the mitzvah is actually to read it, but you could fulfill this by either reading it or listening to it. Meaning, let's say the Baal Korah, the person that reads the Megillah, he doesn't have to also listen to somebody else reading it, right? And actually, the bracha that we make, which we're about to get into, is al mikra Megillah, to read the Megillah. But that's how we can fulfill it. So now let's talk about the brachos. So at night we make 3, at day we make 2. The first bracha is al mikra Megillah, on the reading of the Megillah. The second bracha is sha'asa nisim lavasenu, right? That God performed us miracles. Vayam emahem b'zman hazeh, those days at that time. And we say that but both on Chanukah and Purim. That's the universal bracha for these holidays. And then the first night we make shechianu because we're doing a mitzvah for the first time this year, like we do on every holiday. When you make the shechianu, have in mind the other mitzvahs of Purim. They're considered secondary to the Megillah, but they're of course mitzvahs that we do. And during the day, we just read the first 2 blessings. Okay, that's what we're going to cover today. So, Freilich and Purim. No, have an amazing day, and we will see you tomorrow.